Good afternoon. If you just joined us, we are in our last session before lunch, and we're looking at leveraging user feedback to develop AI models for personalization. And Harish Srigiriraju, principal engineer and head of analytics for cloud at Verizon, is going to take us through the presentation. Um, Harish serves as the head of analytics and data science for Verizon Cloud by managing a team of designers, data analysts, data scientists. He leads technology implementation and feature development for Verizon Cloud, one of the biggest products for Verizon. He has expertise in leveraging advanced analytics, data systems, machine learning to improve software products. And he has led several cross functional products to draw insights on user behavior with help of various analytics tools and models. He leads the innovation group at Verizon to come up with new products and feature ideas. He has also won multiple awards at Verizon for his contribution to the cloud product. And he has prior experience in software programming and graduated from Kellogg School of Management, one of the top business schools in the world. Harish, such a profound um, background and experience, wealth of experience within this space. It's good to have someone that is coming from New York. I hope you have had your cup of coffee and you are not sleepy because I think it's to be 6 a.m. somewhere there, there. So welcome. We look forward to your presentation. If you can share your PowerPoint or your screen, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the introduction, and I'm glad I woke up for this and I didn't sleep over. So thank you again for the opportunity, and hey everyone. So let me share my
Awesome.
screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sure. All good.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Harish, and today I'll be talking about how in-app ratings are very powerful to understand more about the user, uncover user needs. So a bit of like data analytics, data science, and then also towards the end touch upon like personalizing user experience through in-app ratings and like AI models as well. So let me start with first defining like what in-app ratings are. So typically if you go on Google Play Store or iCloud or sorry Apple Store, you can see actually app ratings there, and so users can go and typically leave a feedback, a review or a rating. So I'm not talking about ratings at the app store level. I'm talking about inside the app. So on the right side, if you see, typically you might have observed this when you're using a particular app. A pop-up or in-app message shows up which asks you for like a rating. Hey, are you enjoying your experience? Sometimes it's asking you to give a rating, sometimes it's just like a thumbs up and thumbs down. So essentially I'm talking about these in-app ratings. Now there is more information I want to share about the limitations of App Store rating. So, a lot of times when I'm working with like product leaders, they're always concerned about like how is the App Store rating. They want to obviously ensure that the ratings are pretty high and users are happy, etc. But I feel App Store ratings have a lot of limitations. So that's why I think in-app ratings are better. But first, let me talk about some of those limitations of App Store ratings. The first thing is there's no context on the user at all. So like what I mean by that is if you go to the App Store rating, let's say some user has given a 5 star or even a 1 star and left a review. Sometimes this review is like more like a rant and venting out, and there's not much information available. So a lot of times you have absolutely no context on this user. You don't know when they started using the app, what kind of platform that they're using, or what version of the app they're using sometimes. Or you don't have any information on how is their engagement like. Are they a highly engaged user or not so engaged user? What kind of plan they are using, if there are like multiple plans. There are so many different like questions that you might have, and none of it is available you if you go to like an app store rating. So that's the first biggest like limitation. The next important limitation is adverse selection. So users who are typically unhappy or maybe very happy are more likely to actually go onto the app store and give a negative rating for the ones who are unhappy. And so it's not a true representation of like the sentiment of the entire user base. So the challenge is ultimately you want to get true understanding of like what users perceive about your app, but that's not the case with like app store ratings. A lot of times it is like dependent on adverse selection, people who are frustrated, who want to go and like leave a rating or a review. The last aspect is constantly changing like ratings on the app store because of like Google or Apple policies and so on. So what I mean by that is sometimes there are a lot of like spam, irrelevant ratings or reviews. I have seen cases where because of like politically motivated agenda, they are able to like try to bring down a rating of an app by using spam or bots and things like that. In certain cases I've seen where it's totally unrelevant or unrelated application, but like people go and mistake that for some other application and then give a rating or a review here. So on the back end, customer support teams have to tell Apple or Google to take down those reviews or ratings, and then once you notify them they try to do that. And so they go back in time sort of and then remove those ratings and reviews as well. So it's a constantly changing influx of like app store ratings and reviews. So what happens is it's not reliable information. Suddenly you will see like a huge dip in the ratings or increase because of like change in policies or algorithms at Apple's end or Google's end. So because of all of these like key limitations, I think in-app ratings are much useful. And let me go into like how we can potentially leverage in-app ratings. So very simple to begin with, like, and as we go along we'll try to do more like sophisticated analysis. But the first thing is like very simple and straightforward. You can actually just see a monthly pattern in terms of how many people are like leaving an app rating in-app rating, and what is the average rating. So very standard, you can actually get this analysis. You can use tools like, there are tools like Amplitude, Localytics, Flurry, and so on the client side metrics. You can collect all of that information and you can just do like this kind of like a simple analysis to still get a sentiment score. So you can share this with your product leaders or folks, saying that okay, apart from app store ratings, these are the inside the app ratings as well, and these are the trends. Now, another very interesting thing about these in-app ratings is that you are the one who can set the triggers. A lot of times what happens in app store ratings is after you leave the app sometimes, or user leaves the app, they go on the app store and then leave a rating. So you're not, sometimes like it's too late because the user has already deactivated. But here or inside the app, you can actually trigger these in-app ratings at your needs, based on your needs as a product manager or a data scientist. So for example, here you can see you can trigger these in-app ratings on day 1, day 7, or you can give a manual option as well within like settings or help, etc. So what you can do is these triggers can be based on specific segment of users, it can be based on a certain day, it can be based on so many different parameters, because then you can understand what the user perceives. So for example, on day 1 they fully don't understand the application or understand the value, but you can still trigger an app rating because you want to maybe test their onboarding experience. So that's like one example. Or day 7 is when you typically see a lot of users tending to churn. So you might want to trigger during that time to just understand how many of these users are expected to leave, and based on that you can generate like predictive algorithms. This is another extension of what I was saying. You can actually do a lot of comparisons as well, like, again, very manual in nature, but you can still do these comparisons. So let's say there are two plan types within your application. You can actually see plan 1, plan 2, which plan people are more satisfied with, which has like higher 5-star rating or 1-star rating, or what is the average rating also overall. So these kind of like comparisons will help you really understand who the user is, what do they care about, which plan are they more happy with, which plan they're not happy with. So plan type is just one way of like slicing and dicing, but you can actually do a lot more. Like you can do like based on geography, age, other demographics. Let's say one geography people are happy versus other people are not happy, so you can do that kind of comparison. You can do plan type, date of activation. Certain month you can do a cohort analysis and see certain month when people joined, were they more happy compared to another month. So you can do that kind of like cohort analysis as well. And lastly, like channel. Certain channels people set high expectations maybe, or not clear about the product. Once they come into the product, they're not happy. So you can actually see which channels are also like affecting the user satisfaction score. And on top of that, you can also do like features, based on different features, based on app version, and how engaged they are. You can do all of these ways and then compare what is the satisfaction score of the user on average. So those are more manual methods. Again, you can actually do like more sophisticated analysis. This on the screen you see is from Nime, a software that I use personally, and recommend you to check it out for folks who are into more like no code, and you don't want to do Python or R, but like a simple user interface. So Nime is a good approach, or a software. You can do like some basic clustering or like basic AI models. So here you can see this clustering model is essentially in-app ratings, how many, what is the rating versus like how engaged user are, for example. So these kind of like clustering models can actually help you segment users based on, again, these are all like unsupervised. So you might not get like the full benefit of it sometimes, but you can still do a lot of these clustering models to really see like what customers are happy, what customers are unhappy, and you can also like see which features they're using, how engaged they are, plan type, and so on. This is another thing you can do. Again, this is something you can do in App Store as well, or inside the application through reviews. You can build like a word cloud. This is again something I picked off from the internet. It's not a representation because I can't share some of those sensitive information about my product. But you can just take the reviews from inside the application. You can just build a word cloud and see like what people are like mostly talking about. Another interesting thing you hear is like churn versus like rating. So you can actually get like very powerful leading indicators of churn. So if you see this example here, this chart here, uh, there are 25 people who have given a 1-star rating, and these are the people who have left the application soon after they gave the rating, and versus 6 users who gave 5-star rating have left. So all basically based on this kind of like analysis, you can see that 71% gave a 1-star rating from the ones who deactivated. So what it means is this is giving you a leading indicator of people who are likely to churn. So they are almost like telling you that, hey, tomorrow or in a few days from now, because we've given a 1-star rating, we are indicating to you that we are likely to leave the platform. And so and you can also see like people who are happy as well, not just unhappy users or dissatisfied users. But these leading indicators are very powerful, because once you know that someone is indicating that they are leaving the platform, you can actually do so much like targeting, marketing, and help them to retain. You can send messages to validate or provide the value of the product. You can also send messages to give them discounts, for example, or extend their trial period. So you can do so many things once you know that the user is unhappy and most likely to leave the platform. Another thing that one could do from in-app ratings is you can do like detect anomalies as well. So for example, at a certain day you actually see a higher let's say rating, higher churn. You can actually do this analysis with in-app ratings as well and understand that, what are users unhappy about and why they are leaving. Because now if you see this data, you only know that people are not happy with the product and there is a high churn, but you don't know why they're leaving. So let's say when you have these kind of like anomalies on a specific day or a specific week, you can actually send them in-app ratings or at a feature level as well, or ask them questions as to what is making them unhappy. So this kind of analysis, it's not like a post-mortem, but can happen real time. As soon as you detect some anomaly, you start like asking people like what is happening, why are they leaving. It could be because of some errors or bugs. It could be some price increase that you have done, and could be other things as well, something about like a competitor and so on. Similarly, this bottom chart here, you can see, for example, typically in the first few days there's a high risk of churn. So on day 7, for example, people are more likely to leave compared to like day 70 when the churn is very stable. So you're worried about day 7 when people are leaving. So what you can do is, day 7 is basically 7 days after they join the app here. So what you can do is, because you know that day 7 is very critical, you can actually send these in-app notifications or ratings on day 6, and you can see people who are unhappy on day 6. You can actually offer them a discount or figure out how to retain them, and so that on day 7, for example, you know that like some of these people at least will be retained. So these are the things that one could do to understand churn and use app rating to actually retain them on the platform. uh, Another thing I was able to do is like look at the navigation patterns within the application. So for example, I used a tool called Gephi. This chaotic diagram you see here is basically all the navigation paths the user was able to take within the app. So each node represents a feature or an event, and these are the paths that one could take inside the application. So based on in-app ratings of unhappy users, and identifying what are the navigation paths that they typically take. Are they getting stuck anywhere where there are dead ends, for example, or are there certain features that they're more likely to go to compared to others? So these are the trends again you can draw based on navigation using like tools like Gephi. You can do network analysis where you can do run rec correlation coefficients or average distance between nodes and things like that. And so you ultimately can look at this navigation, look at in-app ratings, and try to see which are the unhappy users, and can we actually use this to improve the navigation of the application itself. This we've already covered. Basically, you want to be able to see like between 1 star and 5 star. um, you can actually see, are they highly engaged versus like moderately engaged or not engaged. So sometimes, a lot of times, we believe that higher engagement on the application might lead to higher satisfaction or might lead to higher retention, but that's not always the case. Sometimes users might be dormant but still might be happy. So you can also do this analysis where you're comparing ratings versus engagement and clearly sort of like validate some of your hypothesis. uh, in the interest of time, again, just quickly highlighting some of the AI models that one could do. You can personalize the entire user experience on the home screen. For example, one of the things that we were able to develop and test out, etc., is you're looking at happy users. You know who are the unhappy users. For the happy users, you can potentially upsell, cross sell a lot of products, or ask them to upgrade. For unhappy users, You can, as I said, offer discounts and so on. And all of this can happen at the home screen, where, let's say, based on a specific rating a user has given, you change the entire home screen and personalize it for that user. Second, you add like certain features or remove certain features based on the user, or the in-app rating. You can also rank the features. You can use ranking algorithms. There are several ranking algorithms, like either neural networks or simple machine learning you could deploy. But you can actually rank the features as well, based on which features have a higher rating compared to other features, for even that user, or at this like large population altogether. But when you're deploying these like AI models, the first thing is to constantly evaluate what are the inputs you're giving to the model. Let's say feature rating is one, or engagement could be other, or time that they've spent on the app. There could be so many input parameters that one could use. But to keep it simple, you can start with in-app ratings and maybe, let's say, engagement, and then build off on that. Second thing is identify any bias. So let's say two features are always like, coexisting, where users go to one feature one, they're very likely to go to feature two. So those kind of like relations between features who are not completely independent might lead to certain biases as well. You need to be aware of that. And third is like, I think no matter how good models are, how good you are able to deploy them, always do like thorough user testing. Sometimes, unfortunately, it has to be manual. So, but like use internal QA teams or even external user testing to ensure that the approach that you're taking is actually reflecting on their user experience. So you can collect different user testing information and try to refine or fine tune your machine learning model. So with that, let me conclude by saying that in your team, if you're using either a B2C or a B2B product, think about how you can gather user feedback, either in terms of ratings or reviews, and inside the app preferably, and what kind of insights you can draw from that. Understand who your happy customer is, unhappy customer is. Create user segments that can actually allow you to do customized personalization of like the experience on the home screen or other features or navigation or even marketing campaigns as well. So with that, let me conclude, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Harish. Very interesting, though. Ratings may be meaningless if you do not know the user. So it's always good to get that insight and be able to predict churn and maybe devise ways of how you can retain that client if need be. Yeah. So thank you so much. I'm not sure if there are any questions here. Uh, okay, so I don't see any question, but we're going to take a break, our lunch break. We still have two presentations. We're going to look at AI in financial services, AI in supply chain. We we have got also a panel discussion where we're looking at developing an AI strategy framework for implementation. So we still have some exciting presentations coming up. So let's take our lunch break, and I think if we can meet, let's say at 13:35. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, Harish, again. We appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.